Now, if you have been looking for flashlights over the last couple of years, you probably already seen ads for a company called Olight. And when you dig a little deeper, you notice they have flashlights that use AAAs, AA's, but most of them use a proprietary system of magnetic charging. And it is incredibly convenient, but it is also a massive commitment to staying within their ecosystem. So today I want to focus on 5 models that Olight make that actually justify that magnetic charging system, more so than any other models that they actually make. Not all of them are worth it, but these 5, they definitely are, and I want to explain why. So before we get started, let me say this. I've been collecting Olights for a long time. In fact, about 80% of the flashlights on this table I purchased with my own money. So I genuinely believe there are models in their lineup that are some of the best that exist. That being said, before we get into the top 5, there are a couple that I want to identify as being not worth when it comes to choosing the magnetic charging system. Doesn't mean they're bad, only that they don't justify it on their own. Let's start with that. Now, before everyone gets upset, I'm not picking on these flashlights. In fact, these are really, really good. The thing is, though, they don't justify committing to this proprietary system by themselves. You kind of need other models to do so, because many brands make similar flashlights in similar sizes with equal user interfaces and still have more versatility. Type-C charging, can use different styles of batteries, where all 4 of these, if you're not using a battery from Olight and not charging it from this pad, there's no other way to do so. It's pretty much exclusive to the 21700 sized flashlights made by Olight. They are great as secondary or maybe the third one you buy, but they themselves do not justify it. And that's saying it, even though I think the Warrior X Turbo is probably one of my most used flashlights just because of its incredible simplicity and power. But they just don't do it by themselves. Are they convenient once you've committed? Of course. They're just not the ones that I think you should start with. Now, I do have one honorable mention before we go to the top 5, and that's going to have to be the Olight All Variants, in fact. And even though this isn't my most used Olight, it is definitely the most used Olight by my family and my relatives. This has been something I have given as gifts, and they have enjoyed it so much. They are waterproof, they are magnetic, meaning they stick to pretty much anything, which is awesome. And they have a nice warm glow to them. And that is really, really useful as a reading light. So my daughter uses them, my wife uses them, so on and so forth. These are phenomenal. And I got them with this tray all at the same time. So even though in this particular sale that's going on right now, I don't see any of these for sale, it's worth noting. So if you get a chance to get some O-bulbs as part of a kit, it's a great way to do it. So with that, let's go ahead and go on to the top 5. Now, sneaking in at number 5, it's going to have to be the Baton III Pro. Now, this is a very powerful and compact flashlight. 1400 max lumens, not with this neutral white, but with the cool white, an excellent user interface, double-sided clip, magnetic tail base, also the charging base, and just a good light in general. But its claim to fame, and the reason why it makes it on this list, is that the tube, the diameter of this flashlight, is barely any bigger than the battery itself. So you're getting a lot of power, a lot of output, and a lot of runtime in a very, very compact package. That's something they can accomplish because of that proprietary battery, which makes this tail charging system actually work. So this is definitely the first one on the list that I would consider that would get you started on the path of using this system. Now, number 4 is going to be the Baton III Pro Max. But before we talk about this, let me mention that each one of these flashlights comes with a charging cable that looks just like this. Now, unless you have at least 3 or more flashlights using this system, I do not recommend getting the charging base. I have quite a few, as you saw, flashlights that use it, and that's why it makes sense. Otherwise, you can just swap two flashlights between this system. One is always charged and you just swap between them, and that works really well. Now, the Baton 3 Pro Max, just like the Baton 3 Pro, is very compact for the size of battery that you actually get. And that's because of the battery itself. So taking full advantage of this system, and it barely is any wider than the 21700 that is in here. And this thing is big, and it has a lot of output, over 2000 in fact, and it has really, really long run times, all of which use the exact same user interface as the Baton 3 Pro and many of their others. So definitely want to consider, and is actually my preferred of the two between them. So there you go. At number 3, we have my second most carried Olight, at least recently, and that's going to be the Warrior Mini 2. Now this is an update of the original Warrior Mini, which I actually loved quite a bit. The benefits here are actually the tail switch that you get, which is also the magnetic charging base. So you get a medium or turbo directly from the tail. You can switch into what's called a tactical mode, which makes it momentary. And then you still have access to EDC style functions from the side switch. One of the more versatile flashlights out there, and really there's nothing else this compact with all of these features at this size point. I've tried other flashlights from other brands, and this one really takes the cake. It's one of the few that I think really makes the system worth it, because you're not going to have a secondary barrel, just like with the other ones, and it's able to communicate. This tail switch is able to communicate with the head because of the battery itself. So really, really genius design. The Warrior Mini 2 is definitely one I'd consider, especially if you're looking for something with more defensive capabilities. Number 2 on this list is also the number 1 selling Olight, and that's going to be the Baton 3. Now, put this in their perspective. This is a very, very small flashlight compared to the other varieties of the Baton. And that doesn't mean it's not powerful. 1200 lumens of maximum output, same user interface that you will find on all the Baton series, magnetic charging base, really, really light, double-sided clip, same thing here. It's a wonderful flashlight, there's no doubts. But the fact that they were able to make a charging case for it that basically can refill it 3.5 times while also being Type-C rechargeable, honestly, it's no wonder that this is such a hot seller. And I think it's a really good reason. I carry this quite a bit when I'm traveling because I've almost never needed more than 2 charges, even after a week of use. It has good run times already. And the charging case pretty much covers everything. So while I'm charging my phones and everything else, I don't have to worry about my flashlight. I know it's at 100% all the time. That's probably why I would recommend this probably more than any light, including the number 1 slot. But the number 1 flashlight, I think, utilizes the magnetic charging base better than anything else. So number 1 is also my most carried Olight currently. It's not something I expected, but it's so convenient. I can't state it enough. The form factor on this flashlight is just super comfortable to carry and super appealing to a lot of different people. My mother now has one, using it on the job site with the laser, which has a secondary functionality with this dial here. And you have over 1,000 lumens of output when you need it. They just really nailed it on this. And by having the magnetic charging base, not only is it useful for working on a car or pretty much anything else where you can attach it to a piece of metal, it means that this system is going to have an IP rating of 7 or better, meaning it's going to be waterproof. All the other flashlights I've seen with this form factor, they just can't achieve the resistance to dust and water that this actually can. Huge advantage for the Olight here. And that has only gotten better with their newest variety, which is the UV. And as you can see, they've been able to slim it down even further, adding a new double-sided pocket clip and gotten rid of the hump that is on the back. Now, I never noticed it because this was sitting outside the pocket and didn't change any dimensions as far as I could tell. But this thing seats very deep in the pocket. And when you combine that with the curved corners, I reach in, grab something, and I don't pull out this flashlight by accident, and I don't scrape up my hand. That's not true about every flashlight out there. The form factor makes it very comfortable to carry. You kind of forget it's even there until you need it. And this new model actually has a UV light. Now, maybe it gives you more information than you want from time to time, but I like this combination. I think there's a lot of people that will love it. And it also leads me to question if it's possible to do a lot of other variants for different emitters. So they could have one that has a lot of reach on one side and is cool white, and then on the other side they could have a high CRI warm emitter. So you have a little bit of everything that you might use from day to day. I think that this has more potential than almost any other flashlight made by Olight to prove that the magnetic charging system is worth it. And that's why it comes in at number 1. So I hope this gave you an idea of what flashlights to look for if you're going to consider committing to the magnetic charging system. Right now, a number of them are actually on sale. The Arcfeld, especially the UV variety, I think is a really good consideration. Baton III, I mean, this is a good middle ground and is currently on sale for 20% off. I'll put a link down in the description. You're also going to get this, which is the Gober, just for making a purchase. And yeah, let me know. Is it worth it to you? Can you see the potential in the different form factors you can make that use something like this? I think they're just at the beginning of this, but maybe the future of flashlights is flat. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks as always for your time, and we'll talk again soon.